Hey everyone, Ryan here. I don't have a cheesy or clever opening for this video today, so sorry for that. I can feel your frustration, but with that, let's just begin. Today we're going to talk about a game called Bleak Faith Forsaken, a seemingly brand new Souls-like open world RPG that is on the horizon, as in it's coming soon, at some point. Not sure exactly when. You might say, Ryan, what is that? What are you talking about? Well, I'm gonna tell you. First, I want to shout out my buddy Click for Gameplay for covering this game early on, because I probably wouldn't even be talking about it here on this channel if it weren't for him, since I discovered it on his own channel. Check out his content. Channel link will be in the description. Also, check out my content as well, and subscribe if it scratches that itch that no medicine has been able to cure and no doctor could diagnose. Now, the first thing you'll probably notice if you go and search for this game is that you can't find much information on it if you Google it. I mean, look, you can find stuff, quite a bit actually, obviously. I mean, like, you have to do a little bit of extra digging, you know? I mean, it's a total first world problem here, yeah. You got to do a little more searching than normal, boo-hoo. But if you want more concrete information, you have come to the right place. It is a Kickstarter game. So if you head over to the Kickstarter page, it's a great place to start to learn more about it. I'll run through some of the basic stuff and we'll talk about some of the gameplay that is available for it. The Kickstarter page starts with a third-person open-world survival horror action RPG set in a universe you've never experienced before. Play as one of the Forsaken, the last frontier of humanity against the growing horrors of the Omnistructure. As you find yourself stranded in a faraway outpost, you must adapt in order to survive. The world won't wait for you though. You must venture into the unknown. Your faith will decide your fate. You're also seeing some gameplay run underneath everything here, which I believe it is important to see it, as you can no doubt tell it has the DNA of a Souls game or a Souls-like game, just by its general gameplay style. And that's not a negative, of course, at all. It looks pretty great considering it's being made by presumably two dudes from what I can tell. I don't know if it's helpful to you, but I think it can be helpful to describe it by saying it kind of also seems to have the DNA of like a Shadow of the Colossus in some ways, with the scaling the walls and large creatures. And to be honest, that is pretty awesome and can maybe add some extra layers to the gameplay of a Souls-like kind of genre game. Next thing you'll kind of see is a loose roadmap for their release schedule on the Kickstarter site. And I say loose because you'll see that the dates, they've come and gone. Please don't read that as criticism. I can only imagine the amount of time it takes to put into a game, especially with the kind of ideas that these guys clearly have when it's just a small team or a couple of dudes working on a passion project. So I don't really fault them for missing these dates. But it says our estimated release date would be Q4 2019 for early access, Q1, Q2 2020 for full release. Subsequent updates with content, quality of life improvements, and potential bug fixes. Platforms, PC. PS4 and Xbox are on our urgent roadmap, but won't be at the same time as the PC release, when we can cover the financial and logistical expenses more comfortably. So likely when this title does see the light of day, we'll see a PC release first, and that's fine. And obviously the dates have moved, evidenced by the fact that it is now the year 2021, and I'm not going to read all of the information on the page, but I do want to read this next part since it does give you a good idea of the setting of the game and what they're going for, and some insight on the lore. Feel the burden of surviving in one of the last remaining outposts of the Forsaken, a legion of hunters condemned to protect the last vestige of humanity. The nature of your purpose, however, is shrouded in mystery, and as you delve deeper into the manifold halls of the Omnistructure, you will come to find the true meaning of alienation, isolation, and dread. A cross between cyberpunk and dark fantasy, Bleak Faith will offer a story and experience that will breathe a breath of fresh air for all gamers looking for something new. The world is full of lore, and every aspect of it is crafted with the utmost passion and a dedication to art. As a baseline, there is an estimated 30 plus hours of content, a deep class system, and a procedural AI system that ensures no playthrough is ever the same. First off, let's go back to the good old days, or I should say seemingly good old days, of narrow focused games. 30 plus hours is plenty of content for a game these days, at least in my opinion. I love a big sprawling world and universe, but it's hard to find time to put hundreds of hours into certain games these days. Now, if you're like me, and you might be, you still do it, but the point is 30 hours of good quality content is better than 60 hours, and 80 to 90% of it is filler. And the other thing that's really striking, and you get this kind of from this most recent gameplay trailer, which, holy shit guys, this thing needs more views, go and watch it, like, let these guys know what you think. But you can see that cross between a kind of more modern or cyberpunk kind of look and fantasy. The trailer, to be fair, maybe doesn't do that aspect of it the most justice, but if you look closely, you'll see hints of it all over. And that's a huge difference from what you see in a Souls game that already differentiates it from those games. I will be completely forthright about my bias here though. I really do enjoy a good mix between science fiction / modern-esque worlds and medieval dark fantasy. It's fascinating to me that there will be a world that is so advanced in some ways, but still uses and is bound by things like magic and using bows and arrows and swords. It appeals to me on a very basic level, and it's bizarre in many instances if you think about it for just a second, and I think that's probably why I like it. Now, it is open world, and you could see the combat a bit, and that is likely the most heavily Souls-like portion of what you're going to see. Supposedly, the combat is very heavily class-based as well, and it will allow you to choose from various ranged and melee attacks, and also possibly some sort of magic, I would assume, based on what you can see here. Something that you see here too, which is not really a big thing in retrospect, but it's pretty interesting, is the character crouching. And that's interesting because it implies you can also play a build that kind of tries to avoid combat in some instances. If the classes play differently enough, I can see myself, and maybe you, replaying the game a few times and experimenting with the different classes. The other thing I want to go over that took me by surprise, or I guess a better way of saying it would be to say that it struck me. The concept that they seem to be pushing of the procedural generation of the game's ecosystem doesn't seem like anything I've seen before. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't want to summarize it, so I'll just let the write-up speak for itself. How better to experience the unyielding uncertainty of the omnistructure than through a simulated ecosystem of factions and AI groups? Inhabitants of the omnistructure will compete amongst themselves, grow and expand, change and adapt. The food chain in the ecosystem will, as a result, mold to every playthrough. Example, an apex predator from your last playthrough might have already died out in this playthrough and you never fight it again. It's a constant race against time, as enemies will try and outgrow and outsmart not only you, but other competition. Hunt, scavenge, and grow to stay on top of the food chain. Never experience an area the same way, as the procedural nature of the ecosystem will ensure that you can never let your guard down. Having said that, there are still linear areas of the game, especially those that cover main plot points, to ensure a direction and purpose for the player. The ecosystem makes every moment of gameplay interesting and engaging, even on multiple playthroughs. Now, if I had to guess, it seems like that also kind of ties into the plot and the lore of the world, and that is a fascinating way of kind of building out a gameplay system. But a lot of the problems that I have with open world designs these days is that they give you a lot to do, that's for sure, but the world itself feels empty. There's nothing going on, it doesn't feel alive or organic. The way the developer describes their ideas for procedural generation is definitely not as individual based as a Nemesis system, but the concept, as I understand it, is that enemies will be somewhat random for everyone and factions will kind of, in a sense, fight each other. So in a way, your playthroughs will be unique from each other. There's a feeling that you get with some games, and I think it could be the case here, that you turn off your console or your PC, whatever you're playing on, and you feel as if the world is going on without you even interacting with it. And that's a very powerful feeling that few games that I can name have that kind of draw to them. To be honest with you, if you look at the Kickstarter page, it might give you the impression that this project is kind of dead or running into some speed bumps, since the last update on this page was September of last year. Just the other day, there was a Steam page created for the game, so it means there could be something coming relatively soon. So it's not actually gone. It's still in the works. Maybe early access or the release date is coming soon based on that creation of the Steam page. A lot of what is there is stuff we have just gone over, so whatever you see here is probably going to be on the Kickstarter page. But there are some more details like system requirements, of course, and I'll quickly go over some of the little snippets they put on the page here. Open world and exploration. Explore the omnistructure for the first time ever. Rich in atmosphere and rife with danger, be prepared to be immersed in a new world unlike anything you've ever experienced before. Not every path is paved and catered to you, so be prepared to run, climb, leap, to ascend in Bleak Faith. Hardcore combat experience. Combat is dangerous and will push you to your limits. Positioning, timing, and resource management are all things you must keep in mind at all times. Expect to be challenged. RPG progression and playstyle versatility. Choose a class and progress into your perfect playstyle, but remember not every choice is reversible, so decide wisely that direction you will take your character in. Epic boss fights. Be prepared for memorable boss fights with unique soundtracks. Bosses ramp danger levels even higher and ensure a thrilling ride through the manifold sectors of the omnistructure. Based on the way it's described and what you can see the gameplay looks like, it's going to be a fun twist on the Souls formula. We already see big bosses in different parts of the games, combat like magic in some parts, and I don't know how important the story is going to be to this game. Souls games tend to not really focus too much on story and tell the story of the world more in like the lore and the items that you pick up, but going off the trailers, it's going to play some role here, and also based on what they describe. Remember, they also describe parts of it as being kind of Metroidvania-esque, so you'll definitely have opportunities to go back and forth to some areas and explore as you unlock newer gear, I imagine. All really good stuff. However, I would caution you not to take that to be set in stone, or I guess we were talking about internet, so digital stone? Okay. Okay, I have to stop for a second. That's a great band name. Digital Stone? What kind of music would they play? Sorry, I'm getting off track. The Bleak Faith Twitter account was quick to point out that Steam requires them to put all the information up, even if it's subject to change, so don't hold it against them or take it to be other than a placeholder for some time for some of the items listed on the page. Though it does point to the fact that we could learn something very soon. And again, all that is to say that is not on these guys for the lack of consistent and constant updates or maintaining the website, for example. If you go on there, they straight up tell you, we're hard at work and won't be updating the site as constantly as we may like. But I would say for these guys, that's totally expected and not on them at all, considering even so, there's quite a bit to parse through and look at. There's a lot of gameplay out there, and you can even check out Math Sheep's Game Expo showcase for indie games from a few days ago to see the game in action towards the end. And you will see the chat blow up in excitement over this title, so I think these guys could be onto something. And one thing I like is if you go to the YouTube channel, you can also just see the progression of the gameplay and how it improves every single time they put something out, and how they add more polish and clean it up more. I want to get this game on your radar, but only to caution you to wait and see if you're not sure of what you saw or want to see more. No one is going to make you buy it or donate to the Kickstarter. I do plan to, but that's only because I think this game looks really good and I want to see these guys get a chance to realize that this project. I'm not guilting you, by the way, I promise. I'm just telling you what I think. I love the lighting, the art style, the world looks interesting, the gameplay looks fun. Of course, there is no harm in just following the game, maybe joining the Discord and just keeping an eye on the updates, or subscribing to the YouTube channel. Of course, all of that will be in the description for you to take a look at. We'll see how it all shakes out, but I am very happy with what I have seen so far of the game, and I look forward to sharing with you the updates as they come. I'm looking forward to seeing it come out this year, which it looks like it might be based on the creation of the Steam page. You don't just do that if you don't plan on doing something relatively soon, but if it doesn't, remember, it's a few guys working on a passion project, and otherwise the game just looks fantastic considering. I do suggest that if you are interested, wishlist the game on Steam. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps the game do better with the algorithm that Steam has for games on their platform. But of course, check out the game for yourself. Please don't take my word for it. All the links and things I reference in this video will be accessible in the description down below. The gameplay videos, streams, their channel, the Discord, the Kickstarter page, Twitter feeds, you can all look into it yourself. There's plenty of information out there so you can gauge your interest, you just need to know where to look. And let me know what you think down below. Does it interest you? Will you keep an eye on it? Do you need to see more? Let me know down below, please. And of course, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, if not a thumbs down. If you want to see more coverage of Bleak Faith, Forsaken, as it progresses, and other gaming content, subscribe to the channel. And also, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon, and I love you. Maybe.